Surprise! I'm back. I know I said that the time was running out, but here he was, and I was like, oh, let's get in place. Let's get ready. Let's get serious, and all these things. So, I promise we really don't have more time. This is the last stream for PNSQC 2022 40th anniversary, and I am here with Chris. I'm not even going to try.
Navrides.
How do you say your name?
Chris Navrides.
Chris Navrides. Okay, now that in retrospective sounds super easy, but when you picture the written version of the name, it's kind of difficult. Amigo Chris, thank you for walking in. I know that it has been like a challenge to kind of be able to see it. There was some competition situation. I really apologize for that.
Chose Jason over me. It's okay.
He was walking by like, oh, you're doing the interviews. I'm ready. I'm like, oh damn! But he went to the bathroom. Oh my god!
No,
it was yeah.
We give each other crap all the time.
Awkward situation. I am sorry, and I didn't intend it. But for now, we are here. Why don't you share with the people who are you? What's the deal with you and what you're working on? Because I know that you have some cool stuff brewing in. What's the deal with Chris?
Yeah. So, I'm Chris Navrides. Always been a test nerd my whole life. So, worked at Microsoft and Google, Dropbox. I was the head of engineering at Test AI with Jason and Tariq and Dione. And then now I started my own company with a couple of folks from the Test AI side. We branched out and we created a new company called DevTools AI. And what we're doing is basically bringing that same AI tech that Test AI had, but integrating it into test frameworks like Selenium, Cypress, WebDriver IO, Playwright. And so adding that ability for you to say, instead of building a traditional locator, find by AI, just give it a human readable name. We take a screenshot and we find it just like an end user would, so you don't have to deal with maintaining locators, finding those screens, finding those elements, and you can write tests really, really quickly. So, and then we're looking at, where do we go from there of, bringing AI and just trying to make the whole UI testing process as easy as possible and leveraging AI across the board.
This is what I remember that was about Test AI and what was happening with the tool, like figuring forms, and no matter what mutant fashion or shape the form would have, you would be able to identify quickly and automate around it. Yeah. And so something also really cool, I didn't know how or why you and Jason were picking at each other or having so much fun. I'm like, something's going on here, and when you mentioned it, are you familiar with the term the PayPal mafia?
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get a feeling here with you guys on the AI Google mafia, something like that, because you have lots of common starting points, right?
Yeah.
Have you been all together or in those times?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a relatively small community, and with testing, and especially if you know AI, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of cool stuff, and so I think everyone just ultimately wants to help out and help improve the state of the industry. And with how fast AI is advancing in general, there's a lot of commonalities, and so it's just fun to see things change over the last even 2 years, but realistically 5 years from like, AI just kind of introducing, Jason just giving random talks with Tariq and stuff to now there's AI and 5, 6 AI talks so far. We have someone from Google and someone from AWS talking about AI here at PNSQC, so it's cool to see.
We have a saying in Spanish that you're starting to find AI even in the soup, like it's all over the place that you look at, and especially in QA conferences, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's your experience on that? What are you seeing in the industry? You very well started it within the last 5 years, because that's something that, talking with Jason, and probably you're going to blow my mind even more. I wasn't aware how far were we with AI and the awesome things that we can start to do or try to do. Like, what's your experience on that perspective?
Yeah, it's been interesting. When I was looking at AI and kind of getting into it, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I always thought it would be more of a linear progression, right? So you start with the most basic tasks, like say Amazon warehouse workers, putting stuff into a package box, driving short distances, and then we would go after the next set of things, and the last piece would be creatives, and something like generating art, like that, like being able to like take an image and classify it. Okay, you need a lot of samples still because it's it's screenshot data, it's physical photos, lots of input points for pixels. Being able to generate something like that, I thought that's going to take so much compute. It's going to take so long. It'll be like the last thing. And what's interesting, and Sam Altman gave a really good talk about this, is in reality, we don't have self-driving cars ubiquitous. Tesla's still, they can do highway stuff. We don't have anything in the warehouses, but we have Dolly and Midjourney that can generate these beautiful art and actually win competitions with it. We have now, I think, Facebook a couple weeks ago launched text to video, and I think OpenAI followed relatively soon after, where you can generate video. There's a whole bunch of new companies spawning out of that. So I think it's interesting, and then you have also just what is that called? GitHub Copilot, which is just groundbreaking, right? And so I think you're actually seeing it go after the white collar type of jobs more so than the blue collar jobs. And it's also interesting to see that it's not so much, before everyone kind of thought, job replacement. Now it's actually human-computer interaction, right? GitHub Copilot isn't writing entire programs yet, and I don't even think that they think it's relatively even possible. But what it is doing is being able to take a comment section and generate you all the boilerplate code that you would just kind of the grunge work, and so they can take care of that. And so that's what I'm seeing more and more. I also see in terms of just the state of AI, and then in the industry, 3, 4, 5 years ago it was AI everything, and I think people started to realize like AI isn't in everything. It's not real AI. It's and now what people have is I think a BS detector, a filter to kind of realize like, all right, it's alphabet soup, and it just randomly says AI, not there by design. And so I think what we're starting to see now is actual practical AI coming out, and to some extent, people don't care if it's AI or not. They care that it solves their problem, and that's, I think, people aren't buying it for AI anymore. People aren't interested just because it's AI. They're interested because it's a novel way that adds value, and that's been the cool thing to see of that shift of like, I don't need a OKR of add AI to our system this year. It's, I have this, we're getting back to the basics. I have this problem. If AI works for it, awesome. If it doesn't, we'll go and use this other tool that has no AI.
It's funny because you're touching so many things here. One, when you were mentioning that the image recognition in AI, we all have seen the Chihuahua and the Muffin set of images that to drive the AI crazy, which I still see on some talks like, this modernity, training it, but that's like already 4 or 5 years old. And when you're mentioning some of these improvements, I am a big fan of Last Week Tonight. I don't know if you've seen this show. And the host, John Oliver, went in the weirdest direction with this engine of AI that you can write a story and will generate some images for you. There was something weird thing about himself marrying a cabbage or something like that, and the AI came up with something that was somewhere there, like super weird, but images that were him having dinner and holding the hand of the cabbage. Some weird things that when you mentioned, like, it's getting really, really far, and I wasn't aware of, today it became aware for me, this video generation capability. Is it Facebook's?
Yeah, Facebook is the one who launched it first, text to video. Yeah.
I gotta take a look at that because it like me having this opportunity to interview you guys or doing video content or something, I'm feeling like I won't get anywhere because AI will generate the videos instantly. And what can we do? And sorry.
No, I was gonna say I think it's actually interesting is, even with these pieces of art, it still requires human involvement, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, and so I think in some ways though it might be good because you could say, without having to do anything, imagine taking your video, passing it into an AI and say, blur the background. You don't have to get into Photoshop or video editing.
Oh wow,
Take us to a beach, right? And it can handle all of those complex actions. So you still have, you have now more free time because it took you, 2 seconds to write that out. And I think that's the real benefit that we're seeing, or we will see here in the next couple of years, is you can just have these AI systems do these tasks, right? So I published on my LinkedIn, we're doing some work around being able to just auto-generate tests based upon your screen, right? You don't have to write these tests themselves anymore. It can just start to write a general test suite for you that gives you this nice coverage, but is based in reality, not just every permutation of every test. And you're starting to see, I think, that with some of these other AI tools as well. There's one, I'm blanking on the name, the project is called Act One, and it's just, it's not a testing project, but it's an assistant. You can basically give it a text prompt of find me a house to buy that's under $400,000, and it'll figure out how to go to Zillow, search, and find that house, which is historically more of a testing task. But now it's AI is able to do that, and I think we'll start to see some of that cross, some of these other industry and applications start to cross into the testing space.
It's interesting in there because there are some applications that I wasn't that aware, and as you say, it started to become like a buzzword, like a requirement, very similar. And you reminded me in the lockdowns time where everything crypto or blockchain. I can't remember what company doubled its value in the stock market just adding blockchain or something to their name. And I've seen companies doing that, just like, let's have an AI doing something in the corner, and that put the AI and say it's artificial intelligence doing things. But there are some others where, as an example, Photoshop, not to do, they don't need any more promotion, but the platform nowadays, at a very good point, something that I remember was a job for the graphic designer to spend hours there, like drawing the line around the person to remove the background, as you said, remove background. Right now it's just like, there's a person in Photoshop, remove the background. And I'm like, what are my designer friends gonna do now that we're doing like, that was like just picking rock job. They can be more creative now and some other things, but that is gone.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you bring all these areas that can be now affected by truly having it, and not just a buzzword. And we just implemented something to compete with the AI thing. And what other impacts do you see coming, or that are we have to prepare for?
I mean, I think that's a really interesting question. I kind of see it as it's going to allow us to be, 10 times more productive and do things 10 times better, right? So if you look at like what a manual tester today does, for instance, right? Like there's a theoretical limit of just how much time they can spend, say, doing exploratory testing. And then that means, the more time they spend doing exploratory testing, the less they can do security testing or accessibility testing, for instance. And so with these AI systems, I think it allows that, an AI to say, learn from what this person is doing exploratory testing and saying, let me go ahead and add in, the security stuff or accessibility. Let's make sure everything that this, person is doing, all the pages, automatically behind the scenes are, accessible and, have alt tags on it, and those make sense, and, adding those verifications. But it's more, a manual tester driving that, and then having this AI sit with them and just do all the stuff behind the scenes to make them, 5 times more productive. But it can learn from and enhance. It's similar to your friend who was doing Photoshop. It now allows that person to be far more productive, and then start working on the higher order bits of putting things in the background, or what is that next set of stuff. But it frees up their time to be a little bit more creative and think on that next level.
It's funny because when you mention, and I myself have taken advantage of this now that I don't have to spend X amount of minutes cropping around the person, putting the blur, blah, blah, like with this. now my new Photoshops have like 10 of them in a single place. Like I can do way more and crazier things. I'm sure that my designer friends, and same happens in the QA environment and automations. I'm sure that people are like, yeah, now I can do huge coverage and and being more efficient, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to meet a QA or anyone really in the engineering field who, doesn't feel like they have an infinite task list. And so the fact that they can go through that just faster, I think just means that they'll get more done. It doesn't mean that there's a lack of work or a lack of things to do. Because the other side of this too that you have to think about is, as QA is getting more efficient, but also the developer side is too, right? So if developers now with, say, GitHub Copilot, they can now produce 2 times more features or 20% more features, 20% more code output. That means that's 20% more code that has to be tested, that has to be automated. So it's, I think it'll kind of just size up. But if you look even just historically, right? Look at the release process for Microsoft Windows, ME or something, right? Compared to now, Microsoft can get that out, 10 times faster, right? And it's not they have 10 times more QA; it's they have automation that allows those, relatively same number of folks on that team to execute it faster. So I think we're just seeing that process done again, but it's a scarier kind of new technology that people don't fully understand yet, and that's kind of the issue I see is it's, everyone grew up with Terminator and, like this AI.
Skynet is coming for us.
Exactly. Skynet's coming. And so it's like there's this kind of in the back of everyone's mind, this fear of like my job, my livelihood, my life is going to change because of it. And in reality, I think it's more of in the same process of manual testers from 30 years ago before there was a lot of this automation tooling open source. Their job changed, but they're more efficient, but they're doing the same core principle tasks. I think it's just they're doing it faster, better, and
and I was gonna do this straight question. Do you really think AI will leave us out of jobs in the midterm? And that's a good.
Yeah, I think in the midterm, no. Like the thing is, the thing with AI is you're taking a probabilistic solution and applying it to a deterministic requirement. You need to know 100% this is or isn't broken, or this this button is a shopping cart or not. So I think the tester, the engineer, I think in the midterm, 94% accuracy or 90% accuracy on something like that might be a little harder to be there or to trust it, right? And so that trust has to be built up. And people have to generally trust it. I think there's certain people, certain areas that's totally fine, right? Like a e-commerce retail site, right? Like there's trust and verify, and the cost of pushing a bad build that the AI says is fine. For instance, you can push a new build and like that, fix that issue. You have analytics that'll say, hey, no one's checking out because you broke the checkout button, and you'll fix that in 2 minutes. So their threshold, their ability to take on some of these systems a little bit more than say, medical devices, right? A pacemaker, that thing needs to be, 100% accurate or as high as possible. Anything less is not acceptable. And so, I think that certain industries maybe, or certain areas maybe a little bit more open to some of those changes, but no, I don't see it changing the jobs. And there's, I think, a lot of historical data as well that goes and says this is the case. Like the ATMs, ATM teller debate, right? This always reminds me of that. When ATMs were introduced, everyone was saying, oh, the job of a teller is going to go away. But since the introduction of ATMs, the number of teller jobs is like tripled, right? So it's good for the consumer. It allows tellers to do more human interactions, right? Deal with more of the complicated issues of, setting up accounts, doing those aspects, versus, before they were stuck just, oh, here's my account number, get me cash, and it's like that manual job. The machines do that now, and they get to help humans. And so when you go into a bank, you don't have to wait in line because people aren't taking out their cash all the time. It's you can go for a human interaction.
That's a very good example. If you don't mind, I may benchmark it for future events, because what I am taking out of it is like the most mundane and time-consuming task that we would go to a bank and consume this teller's time was give me money, I need it from my account, for them to go and check do you have funds and all the steps that happen in the back end. Now, for us, it's more automatic. For us, it's more efficient. And for them, as you very well say, now they have time to help, I don't know, mortgages, opening accounts, or whatever other tasks are happening. And I generally give this example to people who come and ask of automations. I am a manual tester, will I be out of a job and what will happen? And I used to give this example, right? Before, New York City, crowded with horses and carriages and lots of stuff around, horse stuff. And the drivers were like, oh, this automobile is gonna leave us out of work and all that. But now they are driving the cars. I think it was not out of a job, it just switched what you are doing. And I'm taking, with the carriage and the horse, there was a lot of horse stuff laying around. They couldn't get farther or too far with it. And now with the car or with Ubers and now Teslas and whatever new stuff. And I was doubtful of using that analogy as well with AI because now you don't have the driver with the AI cars. But there's still something around that will be happening, right?
I mean, that's my thought. I mean, in that example, right, I think drivers became more efficient. They were able, they didn't have to like feed the horses and, sit around while the horses were resting. And it democratizes as well. More people can now get it, right? It used to be only the rich aristocrats who could afford to have the horses. Mm-hmm. Now anyone can hop in an Uber in 2 minutes in New York City, right? And there's cabs everywhere. So I think it shifted. I think with AI, it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. But again, I think it's going to be that more efficient. And just like manual testers when automation came around, there's still manual testers. I think there's probably more manual testers today. The interesting part is they're doing more creative tasks, right? A manual tester is giving that human experience. They're really defending what it is to be a user and what the user flow is. They're not just saying, here's 5 bugs that I found, right? That's the automation job. And so it tends, in my opinion, it tends to shrink the jobs to their core principles more, which is the whole goal of QA is to really defend that users, be the advocate for the user in the development process, right? Hey, the user is not going to like this. This is, a broken or bad experience, and push on the development team to, fix that. And so, but if you're stuck just manually regressing every day, you're not going to be able to think about it from that perspective. You're not going to go deeper into these apps, but with automation you can. I think AI is just going to help do that even more, where maybe you take that out. The future is unclear. Maybe that you take the output from what the AI says and you can give a human guidance principle on it, and say, hey, the AI is seeing this. Let me dive in. It's seeing some oddities down in this part of the application. Let me go in and just say, yeah, this is right or it's not right, because it's just finding anomalies, for instance. And so,
it's you're bringing the example of the teller as well. Testers were wasting the time on the most boring tasks, repetitive, the ones that didn't bring much benefit, even through automation, because at a time, and I'm sure AI will start to, if it's not already or something that you guys are working on, fix those automations, because keeping up with changes in development that broke the automation, our everyday story, going crazy by the end of the sprint, and all those good things that we are dealing with right now, I don't feel it's going to be that big anymore, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if anything, it allows you to actually test all the permutations, right? So why is automation still having a hard time with flakiness? Well, one of the main issues is the fact that now you have flagging and experiments going on all the time, right? So 10% of the time now, or whatever percentage, this flow changes, or this button is here different. You're getting a different CSS class name. So all of that leads to it. But AI, right, especially say visual AI, it can still execute that. It can still look at it like an end user and click that button and tell you that the core flow that this is supposed to do is still working. And so that's I think the real interesting pieces of it.
It's a big evolution and as well big change of mindset, and something that I was mentioning to Tariq and Jason earlier, that I am aware, I understand more or less how does it work, but I haven't had a chance to be hands-on or as a QA person to start to mutate into that new QAI thing that we're going to be doing. What would you recommend to the people listening so that they can do their first, the baby steps or things where they should start? What tools?
Yeah, I mean, a shameless self-plug, DevTools AI. It's devtoolsai.com or aidevtools.com or dev-tools.ai.
Multiple entry points.
Exactly. It was the dash. I mean, you can use it today, right? If you have automation, you can easily sign up. It's free. Try it out. Free 99. Yeah. Try it out and basically add AI to your test framework today. I think there's, for manual testers who want to play with it, there's, I think it's with Google. Dang it. Google has an OpenAI thing.
Yeah, Tariq just mentioned it.
Yeah, we're basically like, you can just have two people's faces, right? If we had a laptop here to show it, it takes a couple photos on the web camera of me, a couple photos of you, and then it can basically guess between us, right? But that I think is a real easy implementation that people get of this. And if you're at PNSQC, Diony Santiago gives a workshop tomorrow about that, and we'll go through that. I think those are probably kind of the easy ways. I think there's now a lot more ubiquity in terms of like the big tech companies have some demos where it's like you just put images of cats in one bucket, dogs in another, and then they can play with it and see it. And I think that's probably the easiest way to kind of visually see and get started. And then there's a TensorFlow playground where you can basically they give you some images of dots and see how the AI builds a system and play with neurons, and so that one's also fun.
It's a lot of fun, and so many examples that now that you mentioned Tensor brought to my mind, like Tariq was mentioning a TPU, which I was like, what is that? It's so much that is coming and so many things that are happening, but to close up a little bit, and before I let you go, I have one last question from my side, silly one, and then some information from you. But first, the question: are we, this I'm not a robot tests in Google when you are on a web page? Is it testing us, or are we training the AI there? What do you think? Have you seen that? Like 9 images. Where is a car, or where is a person? Is it a railroad? I have that suspicion, but...
I believe that they've come out and said that, that's actually an AI system that they're, you're tagging and saying it is a car.
Helping identify, okay.
So I think something like that...
Half and half, because they really know when, no, that was a sky, that you're not selecting a bird or whatever.
Exactly. So I think like 3 of them are known. It's like, select 4 of them. 3 of them are actually known, and 1 is unknown.
I'm not sure, please tell me.
Yeah, exactly. And so as long as you get the 3, they're like, all right, human, and then they take the 4th one.
That's a very good example of taking multiple uses of a given situation. Like, hey, you are already trying to guess, why don't you train my AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Google, right at the forefront of AI stuff, they can basically give a test that they know that their systems can't pass, and so if you can pass that, then either you're an advanced AI further than them, which is less likely, or you're a human. And so I think it's kind of a good, simple application of AI within that space.
A good balance. I like that, and CAPTCHAs and all those things. That's way better, easier. Yeah. Okay, so amigo, to wrap down, if people want to learn more about you, about AI, or about the company and everything that you are doing, where can they first find out about you and reach you?
Yeah, it's Chris at dev-tools.ai. I'm also on LinkedIn, and we have a Discord as well. And so I'm on LinkedIn.
Discord channel?
Yeah, we have a Discord channel, and so I'm on there. If you can message me directly from that. And yeah, that's probably the easiest ways.
And for the company?
It's dev-tools.ai, and we'd love your feedback. We just launched recently, and so we're trying to just give something that helps the community. And so if you have ideas, things that you've always wondered, like, hey, could AI do this? We'd love to chat and see and incorporate it into our roadmap.
That's awesome. Remember, there's free, gratis stuff that you can get out of there. Please take advantage of it. Awesome opportunities to start to get your hands wet feet wet into the, well, we get
At least
everything
toes,
wet.
yeah.
Into the AI topics. Amigo Chris, it's been a pleasure.
Gracias, amigo.
Muchas gracias. And okay, everyone, you can see people is already coming out. We are finally turning off the camera, calling it a day, and cut. Thank you very much. Take care, amigo.
Thank you. You too.
Okay,
Bye.
stopping the stream. And I keep talking because this will stop in a moment.